Mark's days always began the same way. At precisely 5:45 a.m., his old alarm clock buzzed like a bee caught in a tin can, jarring him awake in his one-bedroom apartment above Baker's hardware store on Main Street. He'd lie there for a minute, staring at the faded ceiling tiles, listening to the muted hum of the town waking up outside, the rustle of newspapers hitting front doors, the distant bark of a dog, the first car engines coughing to life. It was small-town Ohio, and life moved slowly here. By 6:30, Mark was lacing up his black scuffed work shoes, tightening the same green apron around his waist, and heading down the cracked sidewalk to Maple Street Diner. The place wasn't much, a squat, steel and glass building with flickering neon lights, but it had been his second home for 7 years. 7 long, unchanging years. Inside, the smell of coffee and bacon grease clung to the walls, and the linoleum floor squeaked beneath his feet. The bell above the door jingled as he entered, and Rosie, the cook who had been flipping pancakes since the Reagan administration, gave him her usual nod. "Mornin', hon." "Morning, Rosie." He moved through the diner like a shadow, wiping counters, refilling sugar jars, setting the salt and pepper just so. Customers filtered in, mostly regulars, retired couples, truckers, and the occasional high school kid skipping first period. Mark served them all with a practiced smile, polite and reserved. No one really asked about his life, and Mark had learned not to offer. But inside he ached for something more. He had once dreamed of being a writer. Back in high school, he'd scribbled stories in the margins of his math homework and spent hours in the library, lost in Steinbeck, Hemingway, and Carver. But after his mom got sick and passed, and bills mounted, life didn't wait. He dropped out of community college, picked up a job at the diner to pay rent, and the dream, well, it gathered dust. Then one cloudy Tuesday morning in October, everything changed. The door chimed as she walked in, wearing a navy blue coat, her auburn hair caught in a gentle updo, eyes bright behind frameless glasses. Sarah. Mark noticed her immediately, not because she was stunning, though she was, but because she looked awake, like the world hadn't worn her down. She chose a booth by the window, pulled out a sleek laptop, and gave Mark a smile as he approached. "Good morning. First time here?" he asked. "Yeah," she said, glancing at the menu. "I'm in town for a couple days. Thought I'd check out some local charm." He chuckled. "Well, you found the right place. Coffee? Please. Black. And do you have anything that's not trying to kill me with cholesterol?" "Rosie makes a mean veggie omelet. Doesn't even come with a side of judgment." She laughed. It was a full sound, unguarded. "Perfect." He brought the coffee and omelet, refilled her cup without being asked, and when she dropped her pen, he bent to pick it up before she even noticed. She thanked him with a softness that lingered. The next morning she was back. Same booth, same smile. "You again?" Mark said. "Me again. Got any more of those judgment-free omelets?" They talked more that day. Her name was Sarah Wallace. She was a branding consultant from Chicago, here to help a local non-profit rework its outreach strategy. She had left corporate life 5 years ago to start her own firm, and now she traveled from town to town, helping small organizations find their voice. "You like what you do?" Mark asked, pouring her another cup. "Love it," she said. "I mean, some days are exhausting, but it feels like mine, like I built it." He nodded, fingers tightening around the coffee pot. "That sounds nice. What about you? You always wanted to work in a diner?" He smiled wryly. "Not exactly. I used to want to be a writer, but life got in the way." "Life always does," she said, looking at him intently, "but it doesn't have to stay in the way." Her words lodged themselves in his chest. Over the next few days, she kept coming back. Mark found himself lingering at her table, drawn into conversations about books, life, risk, and dreams. She listened, really listened, and she shared too, how she left a six-figure job because she was burned out, how everyone told her she was crazy, how she was scared but did it anyway. "You don't have to go big right away," she said one morning, sliding a napkin toward him. "Start small, write a blog, submit a story to a journal, something, anything, just start." He stared at the napkin long after she left. That night, Mark dusted off his old laptop. The battery was dead, the screen flickered, but it worked. He opened a blank document and just wrote. It was clumsy and rusty, but it was alive. Sarah left town the next day. Her last words to him were, "Whatever you do, don't let your dream wait for perfect timing. Perfect never comes." 2 weeks later, Mark gave notice at the diner. Rosie nearly dropped a spatula. "You sure, hun?" "I've got to try, Rosie. I've got to try before I talk myself out of it again." He started freelancing, taking odd jobs, writing product blurbs, blog posts, even ghostwriting a romance novella for a stay-at-home mom in Nebraska. He lived on ramen and hope, but something had shifted. He felt awake. The months were hard. There were rejections, so many rejections. But then came the email. A small online literary magazine wanted to publish his short story, the first one he'd written after Sarah left. He called Rosie first. She cried. Then he printed out the story, stuffed it in an envelope, and mailed it to Sarah's Chicago office address, scrawled with a note. "I started. Thank you." He didn't expect a reply. But a week later, he got a postcard. On the front was a photo of a sunrise over Lake Michigan. On the back, her handwriting, "So proud of you, Mark. Keep going. The world needs your words." Years later, Mark stood at a podium in a small independent bookstore in Columbus, reading from his first published collection of short stories. The audience applauded, and in the back, he saw her. Older, still radiant, still awake. After the event, they hugged, like old friends. "You did it," she said, "because you were kind." "No," she smiled, "because you were ready." Mark never forgot that day in the diner. That random moment of kindness, picking up a pen, offering warm coffee, a listening ear, had changed everything. Sarah's belief in him became the spark he needed to believe in himself. Kindness, he realized, wasn't just about good manners. It was power, the power to see people, to make them feel seen. And in being seen, we find courage. So, to everyone watching this, remember, your kindness might be the beginning of someone else's dream. Be that spark. And if you've got a dream gathering dust, pick it up. Start. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to the Kind Story channel, because sometimes all it takes is a small act of kindness to change a life forever.